I just filmed my first YouTube video and it's so awkward filming in front of a camera, but like, this is my setup. Yeah. Hey, hi, hello friends, welcome to my channel. Today I have the first story time ever that I'm going to be sharing with you, and it's about the time I got caught in a
cheating fiance scandal.
So grab your sisters, grab your brothers, you might need a snack or 12 because this is going to be some major tea that you're gonna wanna listen to. Get comfortable because this may or may not be a long story and you don't wanna miss any of the details. Back in the beginning of August, my best friend and I went on a trip. We went to a state in America and I think it was like our third night there, and we decided to go to this one outdoor club. And we've heard about it on TV before, so we decided to check it out. And at first we were waiting in the wrong line for the wrong club, but our good man at the front was like, okay, like slide me a 20 and I'll like take you back to the kitchen. So we're like, okay, that's kind of sketchy, but like we'll do it anyway. So we did that. He took us through the kitchen and then we were in. We were so excited. Our first 2 days and nights in this state were pretty crazy, which will be another story time. So this third day and night was the start of all like the good things that happened on this trip. So while we were there, we were just hanging out. My best friend, Aman, he actually had a friend there who was having a bachelorette party. So he was going and talking to them and whatnot. And then when I was waiting at the bar casually, there was someone that came up behind me and he was accompanied by 2 other of his friends who happened to be male. So, you know, I'm just kind of doing my own thing and this guy's talking to me and then I kind of engage back and then he decides to buy me a drink, which I agreed, and we continued to have more conversation. I could tell that this person was intoxicated, not like crazy intoxicated, but like he was drunk. He was not sober. Anyways, this person had asked for my phone number, my Instagram, my Snapchat, basically every outlet that he could message me from. And he had left this club to hop to another one, and then he came back and he was texting me and calling me throughout the night, checking in to see where I was. And towards the end of the night, it was about like 3 or 4 in the morning. My best friend and I were pretty tired, so we had just decided to go back to our place, which we did. But before then, we'd stopped at a drugstore to pick up some water because we ran out of water. Like, we did not want to drink the tap water because the tap water in our Airbnb was coming out orange and it was just so sketchy. But like, again, a story for another time. So anyways, we ended up leaving, I believe it was a CVS. So we left the CVS and we were Ubering back to our place. And throughout this time, he was FaceTiming me, messaging me, asking where I was, where we were staying at. And I told him, you know what, like, it's kind of disrespectful to my best friend. Like, I'm not going to bring you upstairs or anything. So if we're going to meet, I'll meet you in the lobby. So the next few items, I'm just gonna kind of briefly go over because I don't want to go too TMI into little details. This individual ended up being dropped off by his friend. So there was a group of like 5 or 6 of them. They dropped him at the front of where I was staying, and I met him and we were talking for a little bit, and then things escalated very quickly. You know what? Things happen, right? So I didn't think of it as anything in the moment. I was a little disappointed in myself, I'm not going to lie. So I texted my best friend and he was a little bit worried for me. He was like, are you safe? Are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, like I'm downstairs. He just left and I'm coming back up. So he was leaving the next morning, flying back home, and my friend and I were still there for about 3 more days. So, you know, I figured, you know, this person's never going to message me again. I'm never going to see them. It's fine. Little did I know, when we flew back home, he was still messaging me every single day. He was texting me at first, but then the conversation got moved to Snapchat, which I guessed for me is the first red flag, because if an entire conversation is kept on Snapchat, I feel like everybody knows your messages disappear after 24 hours at a maximum unless you save everything. So we had not saved each individual message. So throughout the next couple of weeks, he would message me every single day. We'd have a conversation, and he had not given off any other red flags. From what I had seen and what I had heard about what this person told me, I respected this person. you know, I think he was more focused on things like, oh, send me pictures, to which I never sent any pictures back, but he would flirt a lot and he would say things like,
oh, like, I'm gonna come visit you, we have unfinished business.
Basically all this crazy stuff that I was just kind of dismissing. So anyways, 2 weeks after that trip, he had sent me a Snapchat video. So this person is not the type to send pictures of himself. It just kind of be like us messaging back and forth. But then one day he had sent a video Snapchat and I could see his last name was on his uniform. And you know, I'm the type of person that loves to look into the people that I'm talking to just to see, you know, are you legitimate? Is there something that you're not telling me that you were hiding from the start when I met you? So I did a little bit of digging. You know, the little FBI in me just like had to do it. So I did it. And the first thing that I see on this guy's profile is that he is
engaged.
At first I didn't believe it because the date on it was 2 years ago, and I'm like, okay, like, you know, there's no pictures of her and him like in his profile pictures, so maybe this is a joke. So I decided to click onto the fiance's profile and I looked into it and I'm like, same thing, like there's no shared profile pictures or anything like that. So I was a little bit sketched out, and so I knew I had to conduct a little bit more research. So I took it to Instagram. And lucky for me, and crazy enough, like this girl's profile was completely public and open. So it just made me stalking a lot easier. And this is a big lesson for people who, you know, have public profiles on any type of social media. Like if you don't want people finding out things about you, don't make your profile public and don't put so much of your personal information, your personal life out there unless you have nothing to hide. Sidetracked. I lost my train of thought. So the latest post that I saw from the fiance was from her bachelorette party. And I was like, oh my goodness, her bachelorette party was around the same exact time that I was in Miami. So it made sense that that was probably his bachelor party, which was just blowing my mind, all these things that I was discovering one morning while I was at work. Crazy. So then I decided, you know what, like, there was so much just burning up inside of me. I was like, I can't let this go. Like, what is happening? Is this person like legit? Like, is this real? Like, are they together? Are they not? I had so many questions. The only way that I was going to get an answer is if I had confronted this person. So I had thought about it a little bit and I was like, you know what? I have to do it. So I messaged him on Snapchat and I confronted him and I was like, you know, were you going to tell me that you had a fiance? And he's like,
huh?
And I'm like, you know what I'm talking about. And he was like,
so who told you?
And I was like, I found out on my own. You know, like it was so easy to just search up your name on Facebook and Instagram and find out all this information. And then I was kind of like, you know, if you don't tell her, I will. And this man's just like rapidly like responding. He's like,
No, like you don't have to. Like I already told her, like she's very mad. So I mean, I would really not kind of, you know, trigger her and make her even more mad by messaging her.
And I was like, you think I'm going to believe your side of the story, a cheater's side of the story? That doesn't add up. So I decided to search up the fiance's Instagram profile again, and to my surprise, I was blocked. So I thought for a second, I'm like, in that amount of time, it was like probably like an hour or two, I was like, did you tell her in that short amount of time? And she was that angry that she blocked me. But also in the Snapchat messages, you said,
oh, like I told her, but I never mentioned your name.
So many lies, so many made up things were just coming up, and I'm like, I can't deal with this. This guy's straight up lying, and I'm gonna take him down. So I made that my mission, and that was my goal, and that is exactly what I did. So I did a more stalking, and I was able to go back onto her account from a friend's profile so I could locate more people to message. And I had found someone who at the time I thought was her sister, but was actually her cousin. And so I decided, you know, first it wouldn't be a good idea if I messaged the fiance on any social media because I felt like he would be able to access her accounts. So I was like, you know, that's not a smart idea. I should message someone inside her circle, but would not have access to those accounts. So I messaged the sister on Facebook, but I got no response. I DM'd her on Instagram, no response. And so I gave myself 24 hours to see if I would get a response, and I didn't. So I thought about it a little bit more, and I was like, you know, maybe I should just message the best friend. The next morning, so this all happened in like the span of like a day or two, okay? I had messaged the best friend, and she responded like 1 minute later. She's like, call me, and she puts her phone number. And since it was long distance, I was like, okay, like I'm gonna call you on WhatsApp, is that okay? And she's like, yes. And then at this time, like I was at work, but I was like about to take a break. So I thought, you know, I could just book a room and then I could talk to her for a bit, since I figured it wouldn't be that long. And so I told her, like, I was like, okay, like, give me a second, like I need to book a room because I'm at work right now. And then this girl in my DMs, she's like cussing at me. She's like, yo, hurry up. Do you think this is a joke? And I was like, I wasn't gonna be mean or anything to her because, you know, I'm just volunteering all this information. I did it out of my own goodwill. And I was like, you know what? You can yell at me all you want, but, you know, I'm just gonna maintain my cool because she was a little bit scary at the time, you know? I'm gonna be honest, she was a little bit scary. And I was having a lot of anxiety. I was having a panic attack at work too. I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening? I was telling my coworkers about it, like giving them the live updates. And I'm like, this is insane. Like, I can't believe this is actually happening. So I went into a meeting room and then I called her, and then she's just like cussing right from the start. She's like, where the did you come from? Like, who are you? How old are you? Where are you from? Where do you live? What do you do? And I'm like, my age, like what I look like, my background, like none of that stuff really matters, but I guess she was just curious and she was very, very mad. I don't know, it was insane, but I told her the entire story and I asked her, you know, if you have any questions, like, let me know. So she was like, this is crazy, this is insane, like, how am I going to tell her? And I'm like, I don't know, sis, like, this is a you problem, I'm just delivering the message. So then she was like, you know what, like, I'm gonna have to call you back later. So, you know, the day goes by and I'm, you know, all the way until 8 p.m. Anxiety this entire time because I'm anticipating this call from her that I didn't get until like later. But then since I was out picking up a gift for my friend, I didn't have my data on, so I didn't receive any calls or messages, right? I get home and my Wi-Fi's on and I'm cooking, meal prepping, whatever, and I get a message in my DMs
from the fiance herself.
And she's like,
hey, like I heard what happened. I want to hear it from you specifically, directly. Can you give me a call?
She puts her phone number. And so I'm like, yeah, sure, I'm gonna call you on WhatsApp because it's long distance. So I'm on WhatsApp and I'm typing in her phone number and I'm realizing that she is not on WhatsApp. So I told her, I'm like, hey, like I can't call you. And she's like,
oh, like give me 1 second.
Waiting a few seconds and she's
like, try again.
So then I called her and the first thing that she says to me is,
hey, like I know you didn't know. I just want to hear the story from you from start to finish. If you can be completely honest with me, like that'd be great. And
I'm like, yeah, sure. Like I'll tell you everything. If you have any questions along the way, let me know. And if you ever want me to stop because it's too much, also give me a heads up. So I don't know what this best friend told her. Apparently nothing, because I'm giving her the background information. She's like,
I didn't get the screenshots, blah, blah.
And I'm like,
best friend, what are you doing?
Like, fill your girl in on stuff. But I guess she really wanted to hear everything from me. So I was like, all right. Fine. But then I'm telling homegirl the story. I'm sending all of the screenshots to her, the screenshots of the conversations that I had between him that night. Call me creepy, but when we were FaceTiming, I had screenshotted the conversation, like what was on my screen, because on the Instagram account that he followed me on, there were no pictures of him. And I don't know, like for my safety, like I want to be able to identify this person, you know, if something happens. So, I mean, I think that was like a really smart move on my part, but like some people might think that's creepy, but you know what? I had the proof. So I'd sent that to her. Fortunately, he deleted all the Snapchat messages. He had turned off the 24-hour viewing option, of course. So I didn't have that evidence, but I think, you know, for me, I had enough. I had the records of like everything. So I was like, you know what, like even if he deleted all the Snapchat messages and blocked me, like I still have so much evidence to take this person down.
Don't mess with me.
So I was telling her the story, like I could hear her crying in the background, and I felt really bad, to be honest, because I know that like I wouldn't want anyone to go through this, and I know that like if it was me and I was in that position, I wouldn't care who it was. I would want to know this information, especially if you're getting married in 2 weeks. 2 weeks with like 200 something people coming to your wedding. Like that's crazy to me. That's absolutely crazy to me. So at one point we were just getting into like the TMI details, and she was interrogating me a little bit, and I felt a little uncomfortable because leading up to that, she was very understanding. She wasn't aggressive or anything, but then like when it got to like the TMI details, she wanted to know more. And so she kept asking me the same question phrased differently, like 5 or 6 different times. And I could hear some like clicking noises on like a laptop or something in the background. And so, you know, my suspicions were, you know, this girl's recording me. So I called her out. I'm like, are you recording me? Because if you are, like, I'd appreciate if you let me know, because recording people without their consent is illegal. And she should have known better given the line of work that she is in. Spilled all the tea to homegirl. She was pretty upset. But once I got everything out there and she asked all of her questions and got her clarification, she's like,
okay, he's on his way home right now. I might have to call you back.
And I'm like, sure, whatever. So I'm just like chilling, a little bit anxious, and like in between this time, like I was filling people in. I was filling all my friends in on the drama, like the live updates, telling them, you know what, this is happening, blah, blah, blah. And everyone was just like, oh my God, like freaking out. I was freaking out too. So like I had to talk to someone else because it just like didn't seem real to me, and I did not know what to expect and what was gonna happen next. So then 15 minutes pass and I get a phone call. This phone call. Crazy. Oh my gosh. So she calls me and she's like,
he's here with me right now.
and I could tell that I'm on speaker. And I'm like, okay, great, this is happening. And like I could hear him in the background. And she's like,
he's denying everything and he's calling you a liar. He didn't do anything.
and I sat there in like silence for maybe like, I don't know, like half a minute. And I'm just shocked. I'm so shook at this point. I'm like, girl, you can believe who you want to believe. And then I hear on the other line that he was saying the exact same thing back to his fiance. Like,
Yeah, girl, like, you can believe whatever you want to believe.
I'm like, really? Like, is this actually happening right now? And so they start fighting back and forth. And I'm just like there, like on the phone, like, Mom, I want to go home. I'm scared. And then they're just like going at it, and he's like,
I didn't do anything. I didn't do nothing. Like,
and she's like,
Then why did she say this and this? And like, there's all this evidence.
and he's like,
I don't know.
I'm just sitting there like, this is so awkward. Like, can I hang up? But like, I didn't want to be rude just in case like they need to ask me any questions or anything. I was like, whatever, like this is happening. I've come this far, you know, I'm just gonna like stay on the line, whatever. So she ends up picking up the phone like a couple minutes later. She's like,
All right, thank you.
hangs up. And I'm like, as she was saying that, I'm like, okay, let me know if you need anything, but she already hung up on me. So I'm like, okay, sis, like I offered my help. I'm being so nice to you, but whatever, like you've got bigger problems to deal with. So I completely understand. An hour passes and I don't hear from her. I get no calls, and I'm like, you know, I'm not gonna message her or anything because she's probably, you know, working it out with him, and I didn't want to interrupt because obviously the tension in the room for them was crazy high. So, you know, I didn't want to interrupt, but she ends up sending me a message on WhatsApp afterwards, and she's like,
He admitted it, thank you.
and I'm like, he lied the entire time straight to her face, and then he admitted it 1 hour later. Like, it just blows my mind because you could have just, like, I want to know what happened like in between in that conversation, but like obviously like I had no right to ask that. But regardless, after she sent me that message, you know, I kind of just tried to sympathize with her. I was like, you know what, like I'm so sorry that this is happening to you. I really just wanted you to know all the information and all the details before making any kind of commitment or promise or whatever. I also said that I didn't feel comfortable with her reaching out to me any further because she already had all the information that she needed, so I didn't feel like, you know, I had any part in this anymore. So I just kind of politely asked her to respect my privacy, and she was like,
Yeah, like, I respect your privacy.
and I was just like, thank you, goodbye. And then that was the end of the conversation. During that phone call, when I was like telling her about what happened, she was like,
Can you describe what you look like?
and in my head, I was thinking, you know what, none of that matters at all. And so I was like, and she said,
Oh, like, I'm just very curious because this is the first time that he's ever done this.
in my head, I'm like, girl, this is the first time that you've ever heard of. The first time that probably someone even told you that this was happening, you know? But regardless, I was like, the one thing that I said to her, I was like,
I'm Asian?
so today is September 7th, and I still haven't heard anything from them. Their wedding, I believe, is next week. Honestly, it'd be great to find out if they were going to be or end up together or not. So that's that for my story time. I know this is like the craziest thing that's ever happened to me, to be honest. I feel like this is the kind of stuff that happens in movies where, like, after talking to a couple of people about this whole situation, the feedback that I got is that, you know, a lot of people wouldn't volunteer this information. They would just kind of keep it to themselves. I could not withhold information that I know to another person, especially if it's going to help them. And in this case, like, at the time when it happened, like, she would have been getting married in 3 weeks. So it just didn't seem right for me to keep this huge piece of information from her. Like, I don't care about your relationship history. This is vital information that I believe should be shared, and so that's why I shared it. I was already in too deep. Like, I had made a decision because it was on my conscience and I couldn't let it go. Obviously, like, no judgment to whatever her choice ends up being, but I just wanted her to know all of the information and all the details before she, you know, made a decision. So that's it for my video. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you feel or what you think in the comments below, and what videos you want to see more, because I don't even know. Like, I'm just starting out, and I figured this would be a fun way to kind of kickstart things and get it going. Okay, peace.